the cloud. Okay, it says recording in progress, Teresa.
Okay, sounds good to me.
So I I would think it's on your account since you're host, I would think. Is there a Dawn on here, Teresa? She was messaging me about this a little bit ago. It looks like no, but
I don't see Dawn.
okay. I just sent her a message. She didn't know if it was
Okay.
Central Time or Eastern Time, but I told her it's no.
Yeah, that always throws people off, and I've been guilty of that myself. Hey, we'll go ahead and get started. I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I see lots of names on here, some familiar and some not so familiar. So really, really happy to have you tonight. I'm Teresa Moxley. I'm the president of the Coffin-Lowry Syndrome Foundation. And we started having these quarterly CLS talks. I don't know. I think this is the third one we've done. And it's something that I felt passionate about. I thought it would be good for parents to present to other parents. I think we all have, as parents of individuals with CLS, we have a lot of knowledge, and we need to share that with each other. And that's really how we learn. So really appreciate Abby stepping up. Abby Hauser is our guest presenter tonight. She's going to talk about females with CLS and the hidden disability. She's mother to Caroline, but you'll hear that shortly enough. So really appreciate Abby and all of you taking the time out tonight to get together with us. So Abby, I'm going to pass the mic over to you.
Hey, sounds great. Thanks, Teresa. And kind of follow up with Teresa said, we were chatting and I offered to, maybe write something one time for a newsletter or something. She said, well, how about present? And then that led to like what to present about. And I thought about, when we do these welcomes for new families that come into the group and all, females in particular tend to like reach out and contact, or I'll make a post about something my daughter did and they'll, have questions or, and I was like, well, a lot of the things that they ask, like, especially the new moms that come in of young girls, is the same thing. Like, and clearly from all that I've talked through them messaging, it's just a lot of the same themes and a lot of the same struggles. And so I thought that would be a worthy topic about what it's like to be kind of more mildly affected. So just to introduce myself here, my name's Abby. I'm a wife, a mom, a former teacher. I now co-own a business with my husband. I'm pretty involved in my daughter's lives, my kids' lives, as my business is a summer camp, so it's very seasonal. I work for myself, so I have a lot of flexibility and time. So I'm a Girl Scout leader. I've done that for 7 years now. I'm the treasurer on our HOA board for like 7 years now. And I volunteer in a lot of different ways. I have lots of weird interests. I'll talk about it later actually. Like I got into like monarch butterflies and doing citizen science kind of stuff and tagging butterflies and turning my dining room into a butterfly sanctuary in the fall. But I'm generally really inquisitive. I love to learn. I will fall down rabbit holes of just random information, and my husband shakes his head when I tell him something new, kind of nerdy. I'm pretty involved in the community too. So my daughter's Caroline. She has CLS. Um, but I think the important things to remember as we kind of go through uh, these slides is that I'm not uh, a lot of things. You know, I'm not a scientist or a geneticist. I am not a disability expert in any way or a CLS expert. So things that I have to share are just some ideas and opinions. It's a viewpoint from my lived experience and what I've shared in the disability community thus far. But it's definitely not any sort of science or anything that is said or should do or will do. Um, but like I said in the bold stuff down there, that what you are or are not doesn't give any weight or counterweight to your experience with your child. That experience is yours and it matters. And no matter what your education or your background, um, you know, your view from your lived experience really matters. So that's kind of a intro on me and my mindset here tonight. So what is a hidden disability? Um, it's a disability that's not perhaps immediately obvious. I threw up some pictures of Caroline here um, because outwardly, and even talking to her, you know, she looks pretty average. She has physical ability. She looks you in the eye when you're talking. Her senses are all there. She doesn't have any aversions to things. She has pretty average speech now. She has a good spirit. She has a good sense of adventure. She wants to do things and she's happy. Um, she wants to do well at things, so she puts in effort. At school, she sits, she listens, she pays attention, she does what's asked of her to the best of her ability. She's well behaved, polite, smiles easily. Um, you know, and she followed skills in her growth that were pretty close to on. She potty trained at 2, tied her shoes at 4, buckled herself in the car when she was 5. Can follow, you know, multi-step directions, the things they're looking for in the younger grades. So outwardly, she's pretty average in a lot of ways, which is a difficult part because she does have a disability. CLS means that her brain does not make certain proteins correctly that allow the cells to do all that science language that I'm not a scientist for. But she does have that. So being and looking and acting and speaking average has really taken us a lot of years to get here. Um, and just that being average is an incredible amount of work. A lot of therapy has gone into that, tutoring and effort to get to that place. It's what makes her pretty remarkable. And on hard days, I have to remind myself of that. Like, despite her deficits, she is pretty remarkable for what she has and what she does. Caroline's biggest challenges continue to be in academics in all areas, thinking critically, analyzing, planning. Right now, she's supposed to be writing a narrative that's like a children's story, and she's working on the rough draft. And it is like, it's so It's painful. Last night was not one of those good nights. Trying to plan this out. It's that creativity spark. It's just not there. She just doesn't know how to deliver like a story. So those things, social skills, inferring, catching any sort of sarcasm, that's not there. Having conversation, those types of skills and nuances. I'll catch her staring in a strange way, or we might have to explain why something's funny. So those little social pieces are just slightly off, even though like she converses pretty well and upfront with people. But we'll revisit this slide. I chose these pictures specifically and for a reason. But we'll come back to why these ones are here. So just to kind of give you an idea, I thought instead of pictures too, I'd include some videos here of Caroline when she was small. This is a video of her crawling at 10 months. So I also have a son who you saw in the previous picture who is 16 months younger than Caroline. So their development is really close, right? And he was crawling at like 7 months. So even though 7 to 10 doesn't sound like a big gap, right? Like it's a small gap. And as the kids grow, it kind of widened little by little. But, you can kind of see that like she, in a 10-minute appointment, like she would look like a kind of an average baby. Okay, let me play this.
Here she goes. Gonna go get that camera case.
Oh, it's a little skippy on my end. I apologize.
Good job. We're crawling. Hey. Hey, you, tutu pants. Come here. Give me that. What is that? Go get it. Go get it. Good job. Good job. You showing me? You got it. Good girl. Yes. You now sit down and play with it. Uh-oh, you're gonna fall. Figure it out. Okay, you're just gonna stay like that and play? Okay. Oh, or sit down. Okay. Say bye-bye. Bye.
All right, so there's that one. Here's one of her. Is it skipping on your end, Teresa? Is it kind of skippy and jolty?
Yeah, a little, but I think we're getting the gist of it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, there's nothing I can do now. Let's see. Here's one of her at 15 months, playing on a slide, and then see her crawl a little bit.
Here she goes.
Oh, wait, that's not it. Hold on. That one started again.
Here's Caroline. Gonna go down the slide. Show them how you do it. Here you go. All right. All right. Good one. And right to mommy with the camera. Oh, no. Can you do it again? Go down the slide again. Go down the slide. Come on. No, don't come to me. Oh, she's going for the kitty. Get the kitty. He's right over there. Get that kitty. Get that kitty. You gonna headbutt the kitty? That's not fair.
All right, so
Here's Caroline.
shoot.
Can we go down?
So you know, she's crawling, she's kind of vocalizing. She's not walking yet at 15 months. But like, and she's kind of acting like a typical baby. So, here's a couple more of like school age Caroline. I might cut them kind of short. And this one has my son when he was 6 and at 2, in 2nd grade. You can see it's interesting too, like how much more engaged he is with the camera and wanting to be silly for the camera. I'm gonna play this one. So here she's I said 8, and she'll like talk a little bit in here.
I'm 6 years old. And what is this you have, Emmett? It's a leprechaun trap. And the leprechaun comes up here, then he comes up this door, then goes in there, then he's stuck.
What is in there?
Gold. Gold coins.
Oh, and how come he can't get back out?
Because it's too slippery.
Oh, tall.
Yeah.
Okay, and here we have Caroline. And what do you have here, Caroline?
My name is Caroline, and I am 8 years old. I have a leprechaun trap, and when the leprechaun grabs the coins, the stick will fall down, and then he will be trapped.
And he can't get out from under there
Yeah.
because he's tiny?
Yeah.
Wow. Great job, guys. Can you turn your project around so we can see it? Ooh. It has a
Nice.
ladder. Okay, and lift yours up, Caroline. Oh, it's decorated on the top.
Yeah, right.
Oh, what's that inside there?
The bell.
Oh, what does the bell do? It jingles when the box falls? Great idea. Oh, close up of Emmett. Okay, great job, guys. I think you're gonna catch a leprechaun. All right, and then here's one of Caroline reading some.
It's Caroline, and it's Girl Scout cookie season. I am selling cookies for my troop for the 7th year in a row. We get money for every single box we sell. We work on fun badges and have fun adventures. This past year, we learned about police dogs, went camping at the Starved Rock, did Girl Scout Day at the Capitol, did an outdoor art badge, and learned all about animal helpers with the Illinois service dogs. My name is
Oh, shoot.
Emmett, and I'm
All right, so those are just some samples to kind of like something more than pictures, just to kind of give you an idea of what she's like. So, our early story with Caroline, like I said, she always just wasn't quite typical with the eye contact as a baby, eating difficulties as a baby, the social piece that babies give you, the back and forth, the sounds, the babbling, the speech. But at a 10-minute doctor appointment, she really appeared engaged and typical enough. So the diagnosis piece of what's going on was hard. And with that, you know, came the sense after appointment that you're never really believed. My family said, you know, she's fine or she's okay. And the doctors were dismissive. So that was tough. Eventually, you know, they were writing whatever referrals we wanted, trying to get a diagnosis, trying to get me out of the office. I don't know. But we went to a lot of different specialties. Accessing, you know, appropriate therapies was hard. No one referred us anywhere for any therapies. There's something each state has here called early intervention. Our doctor never even mentioned it. A friend told me about it and I said, "What's that?" And I called and asked for our own evaluation. You can request your own. What's that?
There's a question. It's actually for me though. Did you have newborn hearing screenings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she passed those.
Okay. Well, I figured she did, but that's something when our son was born, they didn't have newborn hearing screening and he was deaf, which we figured that out, but we figured it out later because he was delayed. So it was like a year before he was diagnosed with that.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. I think now it's
Yeah,
pretty standard and mandatory. Yeah.
yeah, I think it
Right.
is too.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so the mental health piece of this was probably the hardest thing. You know, eventually you start to doubt yourself and think maybe you are crazy. The doctors say she's fine, everyone says she's fine. I would leave appointments, I remember, and having her in the car seat, strapped in the car, and leaving the doctor and just crying in the car. I was really made to feel like I was nuts. I was this oversensitive mom that was crazy looking for something to be wrong with her kid. So that piece was pretty taxing. Um, Intervening early and often in those crucial developmental stages is key. And so if you don't have that piece, that diagnosis, that someone that's referring you, you're missing out on all of those opportunities. And in school, transitioning to school, I'm not sure about other states, but in Illinois, um, you can start preschool at 3. You're an automatic in if you have some sort of delay or diagnosis. But even, meeting Caroline at school after being in early intervention, transitioning, they said, oh, she probably won't qualify, but we can test her if you want. And I was like, yes, like test her. She's gonna qualify. Like she wasn't gonna pass the screening type test. I knew that. Um, so anyway, all that was pretty tough. Uh, I don't really blame professionals for that. It's a rare condition. She's a female, she's physically pretty healthy, and we've worked with this kid like relentlessly, So, um, but you as a parent, I feel like you have to trust your gut and be firm, get yourself educated on everything about your kid and the options you have and the networks that you can join. So right before our diagnosis, right, birth to 5, the brain develops more in that time than any other time. And I kind of outline these if you're not as familiar, if you're a new parent on here, of what these are. Early intervention, at least here, you can get speech, you can get physical therapy, which is coordinating those large muscle groups, climbing stairs, hanging, swinging on a swing, balancing, core strength. They provided OT. Caroline had these holding things, strengthening hands, textural type of versions, hand-eye coordination. There's probably more, but these are the things that I just personally remember. She got developmental therapy, how to play with toys, which sounds so strange, but like a kid typically sees someone play with a toy, they pick it up, they get it. For Caroline, it was like, oh no, like you take the ball, you put it in the top, you slam it down, it goes through the thing, comes out the bottom. Isn't that fun? You take the toy, you put it in the top. Like learning how to play with a toy, I remember. Or lengthening the time engaged with that toy. She had a very short attention span. Before our CLS diagnosis, they had diagnosed her with like ADHD, some other stuff. It was not all encompassing though, but lengthening that toy engagement, choosing this or that, vocalizing during play, sharing back and forth during play. We got ourselves into some private clinics and services. So in addition to the state therapies that were coming to us, we were also going to the hospital therapeutic clinic for private speech there. We were in some speech groups. We were putting her in swimming lessons in gymnastics to develop strength, and also the social piece of that. Social immersion. We were trying to get her, play dates and go to different classes, all the family gatherings, lots of places where she could interact with other kids, being that I had left my job, stayed home with her because I knew something was up. So she wasn't in daycare. She was home with me. We were working. We did some animal therapy. Animals become the medium. It takes the focus off the people, which really sets a kid at ease. It was huge for language and questions and thinking and trust for Caroline, how to control my body based on where the animal is, and how to control my voice and my behavior around an animal. That's her on Tammy, the pony, miniature horse, actually, with the therapist person. They're working with her. The middle picture is at we got in like a development lab type class where students work with little kids on development at the university for them to learn. I've got a picture of her holding a crayon like correctly, like working on that, working on coloring. And then lastly, we got her a private tutor at the age of 4. We knew once school hit, man, they were going to take off running, and we were going to get left in the dust. And so we got her a tutor. She was going twice a week for 30 minutes. And then twice a week for an hour later on. We did private tutoring through 5th grade. So 5, 6, 7 years of private tutoring into Caroline. It was a lot of time and money. I'm thankful we were able to do that. And that's coming from 2 teachers, myself and my husband, more than able to help with early skills, and we did. But having someone else with your kid, I feel like every parent knows what I mean. Like it's just different. The interaction is different. So once we got diagnosed, we were diagnosed just before starting preschool at the age of 3 through genetics. Her mutation was a de novo mutation, which means it was new. It's not inherited from myself or my husband. And, when we got diagnosed, it was handed to us. The geneticist is a great guy, very, very bright and knowledgeable. And even he knew a little bit, but even he said, you're going to learn the most you're going to learn about this from other groups, from other parents out there. It's a rare condition. And that sure has been true. From the CLS site is the first place I got to. The next place I got to was the Facebook group. And, it's a double-edged sword. I can almost feel what that felt like once I got to that group and I saw all the other faces of kids and adults that are affected by CLS. I mean, my stomach sank. It was like, that's it. That's the diagnosis I've been looking for. I can see my child's face in every single one of these faces that are on the site. And it was a real double-edged sword, right? Like, it was an immediate sense of belonging. It was wonderful to have a name for this thing. It was tremendously helpful to get information and have that network to know what health supports might be needed ahead. But and to be believed, right? Like to have a thing that we could say that that's what this is, and I'm not crazy. But at the same time, right? Like the label is good, but your kid also has this label. That was hard for me to put on that, and that there would be lifelong consequences, lifelong battles that we would fight knowing what she has. You know, you're looking at the future. I had a lot of initial worry and planning. I'm a planner. You know, when we got diagnosed at 3, I'm already looking like, what's life going to look like when she's 25? And I was so far down the road. My husband is more of a let's worry about right now, and not worry about later. So we kind of balance each other out there and stuff. But it was good, and it was also hard finally having a diagnosis. On the right is Caroline's first day of school, and she was 3 in the fall. So I guess her birthday's in February, so this would have been at about 3.5 years old, going to preschool in the fall. This is a picture of her with the Chicago skyline in the background, and I picked it just because it looks like so big, open, free, and she's kind of like looking up into the sky. I think it's a cute picture. And then on the left is a picture of her in kindergarten in December, doing, you know, some holiday cookies with her class. So are there any other questions right yet, Teresa? Feel free to interrupt if yeah.
I asked, when you did have a tutor, did you have someone coming to your house or did you go to a tutoring facility?
So at first the tutor was, she was an aide actually in the elementary school who did tutoring on the side. We were at first able to go to the school and tutor there. Eventually the school cut out people doing that. I get it. It's liability type stuff. So we moved it to the library. So we were meeting at the public library, and our tutor would rent one of the like small rooms at the library for tutoring is what we did. During COVID, we tutored through COVID. She actually came to our house during COVID and stayed with her through that too. Yeah, she was great. She's like a grandma. All right. So I wanted to kind of outline what a hidden disability looks like for at least Caroline in school and at home. In school, it can look difficult obtaining things that you need, like referrals for services. A 504 plan is something we have here that provides accommodations. It's not a full-on individualized education program, an IEP, but it does allow for like front of the class placement or extended testing time or use of manipulatives when you're taking a test, or a separate room to go to test, different things. It doesn't alter the curriculum, just provides some additional supports. You know, we had talked about, you know, getting an IEP. Should we evaluate Caroline when she was in like 2nd grade? I brought it up. And at that time they were like, no, like, I don't think it's needed and stuff, but, and maybe it wasn't. She was in RTI for a long time, which is response to intervention. So she would get math minutes and she would get reading minutes throughout, her day during like individual work time. So it's trying to push them up past the 10th percentile, tier 3, past the like, gosh, I can't remember what tier 2 is, 25th percentile, something like that. So there's a lot of different stuff that the school can do that it's much easier having a diagnosis in your hand. One of the things that's hard for us still is teachers recognizing disability. So, you know, is this part of her brain, or is this not paying attention, right? Like, or is she not following directions because it's not intentional? She sat there and listened to you read the directions. She was looking right at you, but like immediately when done, Caroline might be like, okay, so what are we supposed to do? Like, and I was a teacher, right? Like that's incredibly frustrating. But just having that understanding that, like, even though Caroline walks, talks, moves around your room, does the work like other people, she does have this. Is it a disability versus poor time management? She still has a really hard time with how much time is. Asking for too much help or off task. So we'll come back to this a little bit about what we have found works really well in school for at least our family. The social navigation and cues is hard for her in school to have really good friendships and be able to make those conversations and connections with her peers. And the processing speed for school is generally just so high. I can give you an example. You know, teachers a lot of times will ask a question to the class, and the class is looking, and they throw their hands in the air with the answer, and immediately the teacher calls on the second person that raised their hand, and the answer is there, and it's done, and it was right. Caroline is still thinking about what you're asking by the time the teacher called on someone, they answered it, it was right, and now we're moving on. Like, that speed, she needs more time. So that was a helpful, just a helpful thing, like, to mention. And good teachers, if you watch do it, they wait, ask, and then we wait for people to think. And because there are a lot of kids that know the answer, but they need that processing time. In junior high, having this has led to us to make a lot of decisions concerning her academic needs versus her social emotional needs as a student, as a girl, as a person that's growing. And what I mean by that is going into 6th grade, it's junior high, it's middle school, we did decide to get an IEP, went through the full on, like, processing for that, evaluation rather, for that, and did that. If we did not, the reason we decided to do that, if we did not, it was going to mean that she would still be in RTI intervention. She would be pulled still for reading and math minutes. But in junior high, that looks different. That doesn't look like being pulled from like a 4th grade classroom during like quiet individual work time. In junior high, here at least, it meant that she would be pulled a couple times a week from her electives. And those for her were band and choir. Those are the ones she took. And we were like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, we're not, this child has been tutored for 6 years. You know, we are not prepared to now have her be pulled from some things that she should be able to enjoy as a junior high student. And the same for extracurriculars. You know, she had tutored twice a week for 7 years for after school. We were not about to say, no, you can't do cross country because you have to go to tutoring. No, you can't do that, whatever the name of that club is, because sorry, you have tutoring. Like, that's not, we're not going to do that. So we stopped tutoring after 5th grade, and we're letting her enjoy those middle school experiences that everybody else is going to get to do. She deserves that.
Hey, Abby, you do have a couple of questions.
Oh, sure.
Jill commented about the experience she had with her daughter. So that's in the chat if you want to.
Oh, I don't have it open because I have like
Oh, that's fine.
windows
That's
open.
fine. But it took 24 years to get their diagnosis.
Yeah.
Kudos to your doctor though to get that diagnosis early.
You know what's funny about that? It didn't even come from my doctor, and I still take the kids to this primary doctor. It eventually came from one of our early intervention therapists, and we had like 4. Eventually, you know, we became friends and we're chatting, and she goes, you know, have you been over to genetics yet? And I'm like, no, tell me about that. Like,
no.
anything, give me anything. And she said, yeah, actually, like my daughter, we struggled for a long time and she actually has a genetic diagnosis, super rare. And she's telling me about it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's where we're going next. I had like exhausted every other place. So yeah, I said to my primary, I was like, I want a referral to genetics. She wrote one for me, and that's how we ended up there. That geneticist was the only one who really looked at Caroline and really listened. Um, they did a chromosome array and that came back with nothing. And he was like, you know, I believe you and I see something here. Like, can we sequence her whole genome with a whole exome sequencing? And it's like, yes, please. And that's what kicked it back. So, I mean, I really am indebted to that therapist that of all the people that we saw was the one that was like, you know, have you tried this yet? I don't know. I just have this kid. Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Everyone has their
That
own
is
path.
interesting, very interesting. Hey, Tobias had a question about at which age was testing? I think it was the testing of the processing testing. Tobias, do you want to ask your question? I
Yeah,
don't know.
thanks, Teresa. As also I Bill mentioned in the chat that your daughter was tested for processing and she had less than 1%. I was curious at which age now processing would have been tested or was tested.
Like
There's a
the
special test for that, or if it's only in the normal test you do with kids.
like the testing for the gene.
Oh, I think it was about what you mentioned, this mental processing. And Caroline
Oh,
has this delay, and Jill also mentioned this, I think this processing, or
yeah.
I misunderstood
So
that.
I think what you're referring to is like the processing speed, um, like allowing more time, like when teachers ask questions and stuff. Is that what you're referring to? It wasn't really like a test. We were screened to get into preschool. Maybe that's what you mean. And that was right before she turned 3. But yeah, I think what you're referring to was just what I had mentioned about like she needs a lot more processing time. She needs that length to be longer in school to think about the question and respond. Is that it? Am I missing it? Anyone else can help me out?
That's my point. Curious to this point because this is something I haven't had in mind so much yet. And this is special, would be special for CLS beside the other things.
Yes.
Our girl still has this little problem that she does not really speak much. So we cannot do really testings with speak or answers or anything. She's 4 years old now and she's like doing word sentences, but these are not really words, but more like sounds.
Yeah. So to parallel that, uh, I gave when Caroline turned 3 and entered preschool, she didn't have any words. None. I knew she would qualify. I mean, she had receptive knowledge. If you asked her to point to the cat, point to the brush, point to the door, like she could do those things, but she didn't have that expressive language at all. She had 0 words at age 3. I handed them a piece of paper that had sounds. I had like charted her sounds. She had 50 sounds that meant things like, apple or this way, or none of it was, understandable. It might have just been app for apple. She had 50 sounds that meant things, and a handful of signs for all done and stop and I'm hungry or more. So she had signs and she had 50 sounds, but that's part of it, right? Like even if they don't have words, that's part of that testing. They can still test for receptive language. They can test for physical things. Preschool screenings even are like, can you hold this crayon? Can you pick out the right color? Do you know shapes? A lot of that can be done without words too. They were very surprised with how much receptively she had, despite having almost zero expressive language at 3. It was really interesting. Yeah. Just to piggyback off of that. Okay, so what her hidden disabilities look like at home. Caroline, like I said, has a brother. Her brother's in this picture. Her brother is 16 months younger than Caroline. His name's Emmett. Understanding and grace. So, he'll get frustrated with her. He will not understand why she can't do this thing when you're older than me. That doesn't make any sense. So, we really navigate that carefully with him. Like I said before, with our family, my husband's family was very much dismissive of the whole thing. Here we are busting our butts in therapy 3-4 times a week, and we're tutoring and we're doing all these things. And their attitude was always just, she's fine, she'll be fine. And I know that's a way to make themselves feel better, but to me, it was very hurtful. It felt like what you're doing is silly or doesn't matter. Like I really wanted them to recognize the deficits and that we were really working hard to do something about it, despite outwardly, like this whole thing's about, right? Like appearing kind of average. So at home, Caroline has missed social cues. She needs assistance with things that mean other things that are funny. We'll watch funniest home videos and she'll be like, what happened? After every video they show, like, what do you mean? Like, don't you see they did this and this happened and that? Like, it's funny. And she needs a lot of repetition, so much repetition in everything. But at the same time, on the other side, it's been a very humbling experience for us. There's been a lot of love, learning, and grace that's gone along this journey too. And we've met lots of wonderful people and groups, an entirely shifted worldview. I, when I was in high school, right, like I was the valedictorian and I was the homecoming queen and I was the drum major of the band and I had my whole life planned out and I went to college and I knew like all these things were going to happen because I was in control of that destiny, or at least I thought I was. In my mind, even as an adult, before Caroline, I was on that team. You know, geez, why are we giving all these kids these participation trophies? Like if you'd work harder, you'd be on top type like attitude, right? Like, I mean, that's what happened to me. Like I worked hard and got what I wanted. So, but then, you have a kid with a disability. And I mean, speaking frankly, that just totally uprooted my whole thoughts on a lot of things and how things go. And so now I'm totally on like, team, dang, that kid is working their butt off and let's recognize that too. I'm totally on team participation trophy. Because kids are kids and a lot of, what people go through is a lot beyond their control. It was a whole upending experience for me.
I had a,
So, oh, sure.
hi, I'm Mo. Carly's 36 now, so I'm going back a ways, but when you were talking about how the families looked at this situation, especially if you're from a family of high achievers. We didn't, first of all, we didn't even know Carly had anything different about her because her other two siblings were so far in the other end of things that we really we had no idea. So it was a long time before we even knew. But I just wanted to speak to the reaction of family members. So Rob's parents were pretty religious, and they used to pray like crazy that Carly would be cured. And I finally got very fed up, and I kind of wrote what I call my manifesto. And I pointed out to them that A, she's perfect the way she is. B, if you could wave a magic wand and tomorrow morning she's a neurotypical kid, that would be lovely, but it means Carly, as we know her, is no longer. And
Right.
I don't want that. I would never want that. I felt it was important for them to stop praying for a cure, so to speak, and just start understanding that it's our job to kind of manipulate her environment in the best way we can to help her be successful and use everything she has. And it was like their eyes opened. I just said, you can buy a car that has 4 wheels and a steering wheel and goes, or you can buy a car with every bell and whistle on it. It even drives itself. And some of it's the luck of the draw, but it's not about what could have been or should have been, but what is. And it's our job we've been entrusted to help her be as successful as she can be using everything she has. And so I just wanted to share my perspective of that whole thing where the family, and today our families, both sides, they think she's fabulous, and they don't say, oh, she's fabulous considering. They think she's fabulous. She's her own person. She's a person, a full person, just like anybody else. And it's not all patronizing, it's very concrete. This is the person she is. These are her likes and dislikes, just like you have likes and dislikes. And when you have younger children, for those parents here who have younger children, they're people first and they're people with disabilities second. And you got to straighten out these other, family members, or just let it go. Because I feel so strongly that she's exactly like me. She's exactly like the person across the street. She just has a different set of cards to work with. That's all. So anyway, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what I mean by when they would tell me, I'm not sure which kind of end you're on, but I think what I mean by when they would say, oh, she's fine, it wasn't, I mean, they've always accepted her. I guess that was different. It was more like, oh, she's fine, as in like, don't worry about it, or you don't need to be doing anything. Do you know what I mean? But
I totally do.
yeah,
It's your job to try to maneuver her way through this world so that she can be everything she can be, and to not, to turn over every stone that you can to help her. But when you
Right.
have a family member who sees her as, there's people, you all know, you've worked with various therapists and stuff, and some see our kids as broken and some see our kids as perfect, but they need some help and assistance to work their way through a world that is not built for them.
That's what I was going to say. And it's almost
Yep.
like you're right. It's almost like I don't feel like I'm manipulating my kid as much as I am sort of trying to rearrange that world for them to navigate easier and better, right?
That's the ball game as far as I'm concerned, from my ripe old age.
So going off of that note, these are kind of some tools that we used so far. Caroline's only 12 now, so we still got a lot of time, but we always try to, like she said, like set her up for success, make her environment such that she can succeed, to try new things. And that's going to allow for some
Ready for
failure
bed?
too.
Listening to CLS.
Oh, you're on live, whoever's speaking. No problem. So there's early therapies, right? Like we've talked about, you can self-refer yourself. There's state private clinics, academic tutoring, lots of experience opportunity and engagement opportunities you can give your child along the way, to integrate into their world the best we can. I wanted to talk mostly about these early positive partnerships with the school, though. I feel like relationships with your school admins, those school therapists, the teachers, those are so key. It takes interpersonal skills to be able to do that and balance between, that this is a professional, maybe you also personally really know this person as a friend. But those have been so key, having them know you, know your child, they care. And when they care, they want to help and do their best to see your child do their best too. Awareness. We share and we tell them the info can be shared. We make an entire document about our kid, which looks ridiculous when you look at it. And though I always say, like, no one's expected to read this. I keep something updated. I keep sharing it in addition to now her IEP. But what it does show is that her parents care. Her parents have done things with her, right? So I'll show you that in a little bit here, but making the school aware and people aware of this disability that she has. I always have an attitude of, how can I best support my child? Not, are you doing enough for my kid type thing. Even though you might be thinking that at times, we always approach it as, what can I do to assist you? I notice we're having trouble getting this done, or it's taking too much time. Like, what can I do at home? And it at least clues those administrators or teachers into, that, oh, there's a struggle going on here. Mom wants to be supportive. Let's get this worked out together type deal. It's much less, accusatory. As far as social connections go, I feel really lucky. We identified who those good leaders are in Caroline's grade. We've gotten connected. We've gotten good peer supports. One of the plans for Caroline was to seat her next to a great peer that was a good leader. And so we've met people throughout the years that, honestly have become the cheer captains and play on the basketball team and are on student council and all of these girls. And they're in that picture in the corn at a Halloween party we throw almost yearly. You know, we have them over. They know Caroline, they know our family. So we've figured out who those social leaders are, and we've really built some good supports there with those girls. It's really nice. Caroline's not a kid that gets bullied at school. She thinks all these girls are her best friends, and they are really they're nice girls. They support Caroline and look out for her. It's been great. I've made a lot of appearances at the school. I can do that because of my job, but this is another social piece. I feel like the kids see me, they see me with Caroline. Kids start to like and respect you. They start to like and respect your kid. They see our whole family. They see the person. It feels known, right? It's really comfy for me to go and sub, be a field trip chaperone, present at the World Countries Day. Like I talked about earlier with the butterflies, I take butterflies into kindergarten classes and set up classrooms with butterflies. I started a Girl Scout troop at the school. We go to the concerts, volunteer to run the field day events. Every chance I get, I go in there. There's 240 kids in Caroline's grade. So there's a lot of kids. I want them to see us, know me, know Caroline. I feel like it's just a good environment to have people who know you as people and good people. And oh, I lost my spot on here. Yeah, and again, goes back to that those groups, you know, having affection and inclusion and protection of Caroline. So yeah, when I see great things or hear about great things that Caroline tells me, I know a lot of parents, I text them and reach out and thank them for this wonderful thing their kid did or said, and you know, that they then go and reinforce their child, and that's all circular too. Comes back around again. So these are pictures of Caroline doing a rock climbing thing with Girl Scouts. And this one I talked about just some of our friends and our relationships we've built along the way. Good core group of girls at school there. Oh, and then, you know, finding opportunities in the school and the community, classes, strength building, peer relationships, being independent. For us, oh, this is key. We, I guess, meaning Caroline, does much better, is much happier in more individual activities. So things that are organized that would be like gymnastics, cross country, Girl Scouts, music lessons, different clubs. If I click on this picture back here on slide 2, these are the things that she does well and likes. Cross country, it's a team sport, but it's also really individualized, right? Like you're running against your own time as much as you are with a team. I'm not having to dribble a ball, pass a ball, think about a play, know where to go for the play for the basketball. Like it's very individual. So is playing an instrument. Piano lessons are individual. In a band, I've got an instrument, I'm an individual. I'm also in a band. Girl Scouts, you really get to be your own person there. You're doing stuff together, but you really stand out as an individual in a small group. And this is a picture of us just traveling. We do a lot of things as a family. I'd call that a small group of individuals. We're in Canada there, blueberry picking up on a mountain. So those are why I chose those pictures. Most of the pictures like that are things here's, you know, like rock climbing is just like there. So okay, so what I wanted to show you, I know I'm getting past time here, but this is I just wanted to show you, like, this is a sample. It looks like I'm crazy here, but I charted out kind of everything we've done medically, therapy wise, and you know, and we hand this to her teachers, but really, what do these 2 pages say? It says, hey, she has a medical diagnosis. Like, this is a lot of words, but like, look, like this kid has a medical diagnosis. If you want to read it and you're into it, cool. If you don't, that's the gist of it. This next section, okay, like I'm outlining all the therapies and stuff that we've done and what the school district has provided, what private tutoring has provided, how many times and what years. Do you want to read all that? Maybe not. But what's the gist of this? The gist of it is we've done a whole heck of a lot up to this point. Caroline has a caring family that we've worked hard. We are going to work hard for her. Here's the proof. Here's the last 2 pages. Just thoughts moving forward. So we kind of talk about how Caroline's life has been, her what we are as a family, what we believe about Caroline, that we believe in Caroline. So really the whole message is again that like this kid has a diagnosis, she's worked really hard up to this point, and her parents really love her and care. It's not going. This is something the school started asking for. You can't request your own teacher, but you can submit a My Child as a Learner document to the principal the year before they divvy up and select schools and stuff. And I think the 6 bolded things on here are the most important things I wanted the teachers to know. Requires a teacher that's observant, experienced, has an attentive eye, a teacher that won't be manipulated. She she really could kind of rule the room a little bit. We didn't want that for her. We need a firm hand kind of more. She learns best using all her senses. She's motivated to please the teacher. She needs pushing, but she also needs patience. And Caroline progresses, best around great academic peers. She works harder when she sees good work, when she wants to be like her peers. So I just thought I'd throw this on here too. It was just the things that I thought would make a great teacher for Caroline and we always got, oh man, we always got the best teachers out there. We're always really happy. Again, maybe because they knew that we cared, right? All right, so I'm near the end here, and you know, I feel like this journey, like I said, Caroline's 12, but we're always looking to the future. We're always learning and feel like our planning's never done. I have like a long-term personal kind of to-do list. I will admit that one of my biggest challenges that I have not done is educating my own child on her disability. It is probably, I have not done it. Caroline does not know that she has this diagnosis. My husband took both of our kids and went out for ice cream tonight while I'm on this meeting. Like, I struggle with that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to bring it up even. However, I do know that she needs to know. She needs to know how to advocate for herself. It's just something that has been so very hard for me to figure out how to do. I think my greatest fear is for Caroline ever to look at me and say, I can't do this. I'm too stupid. I can't do this. I'll never be able to because of this. And that's probably not true, like knowing her, but again, everyone has their like own struggles. Like that's just been a big one for me. I have to learn more about adult options when it comes to work, income, housing, transportation. I'm not sure if she'll be able to drive or not, like a lot down the road, right? Like I always look way too far, but that's coming up. I need to learn more about my own final arrangements when I pass and planning for that. We have a trust. We have a special needs trust built into that trust. But I feel like I just need to know more and plan more. We're always moving in the right direction. I feel like if you have your child's best interest in mind and allow yourself and others some mistakes and grace, that you're doing the right thing. I have to tell myself that a lot too, because some days there are just not good days. It's really hard. And the last thing I guess I'll leave you with is that it is important to me that Caroline is happy. Now, like, happy's not always easy, but I either read it or someone told me at one point that, Abby, there are other people out there besides doctors and lawyers and rocket scientists, and those people are happy. Like, happy does not have to equate to being the best or doing the best at everything, or even always for it to be easy, but it's an overall ideal that we have to remember, and that I have to remind myself of personally, that we've done the right thing so far, and she is really happy. And I think that counts for a lot too in our journey. So so that kind of concludes my presentation. I know we're over an hour here, but if anyone has any questions, I'm a pretty open book and pretty comfortable answering. And I'm also reachable on the CLS. You can find me on the CLS network page through Facebook Messenger. I do check there too. So I'll open the floor if anyone wants.
Anyone have a question or a comment?
Really, I'm just really impressed. I just found out about my son's diagnosis a month ago. They're twin boys. And I'm just really amazed by you. So thank you for sharing. I get emotional because it's new.
Oh,
Sorry.
thank you. I tried to hide it. Sometimes my voice like quavers when I talk about things too. You do get emotional. You love your kid, right? It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you, that really inspired me. And I just want to thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
I want to thank you too, also. Abby, I want to thank you because, my daughter's situation is a bit different, because she never had any developmental delays. And she did fine. In school, and everything was fine. We had no idea until she had her psychiatric issues. And but now that her brain has healed from all of that, it's very interesting as I listen to your presentation, things that we didn't pick up growing up, that there were things there that we didn't pick up. She didn't have the quote developmental delays. She was even more hidden. The social cues that she missed, the startle complex that she had. She couldn't have done animal therapy. She was terrified of animals, way beyond anybody's normal being terrified of animals because of the startle that she had. She didn't drop, she was startled.
Yeah.
She had some kind of autistic tendencies, but several of those, I love the way that you mentioned just the various different things that, she had trouble with in school. Now, my daughter was homeschooled, but she had some of those same difficulties. She had a bunch of siblings, so we still had kind of a way to see that she couldn't quite do things or pick up on things or have quite the amount of energy. And of course, once she became psychiatric, she really, her brain stopped functioning, and it was very hard to work with siblings, her younger siblings, to help them figure out why she's different. Of course, we didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
It was very hidden. And so I'm wondering, I think there's probably not as many like Julia where we just absolutely had no idea, but that's I feel like what Julia had was even another level of hidden because nobody knew.
Sure. And there's adult women that have come into the group too, right? That like didn't know until they had a child, right? Like, yeah, that's real. Yeah, like it's a whole spectrum, right? Of how it affects you. Yeah.
The fact that's hidden, that's really true. That what you put that, underlining that it's a hidden disability and you don't know it. And sometimes it's even more hidden than you know it is. And You have no idea it's there. And, but the best thing for Julia was when she found out she had Coffin-Lowry. And
Yeah.
she was so happy because she didn't know she was different until she hit middle school. And
Yeah.
that's the point where she realized she wasn't interested in boys. She wasn't interested in the same thing. Her emotionally, she was younger,
Oh yeah.
even though
That's where we're at.
intellectually she didn't have any problem. And when she went into high school, she was having a hard time because she knew she was a little bit different than other people. She didn't know why. And when she found out she had Coffin-Lowry at age 20, of course, by that time her brain had healed, she was just so relieved. Oh, I'm so happy to know. And now that her brain is even healed better, she's investigating autism and reading books about it and learning about social cues. She's been reading books about trusting and how do I know whether I can trust them. All these things that she kind of missed picking up on that she's now having to learn, step
See,
by
and I'm
step.
at that point where, right, like perhaps to her having a name for this of, why she's a little different,
Yeah.
perhaps be as useful to her as it was to me originally getting a diagnosis for my baby, right? Like I've thought about that too. But then I'm like, well, I mean, how different does she think she is? She gets on and she's happy and I
Well, maybe
gotta do it. I gotta figure out how to do it.
at some point when she starts feeling different might be the right time.
Yeah.
With Amy, and Amy's 41 now. If we got a provisional diagnosis at 9, but they didn't have the gene study done at that point. It was she was 16 by the time we could actually get genetic confirmation of that. But we pretty much dealt with it directly at that point. Again, Amy was fairly high functioning. She struggled in school academically and socially some. But the school was fighting us with, she's fine, But when we did get the diagnosis, we talked to her about it. The geneticist talked to her about it. And she has a sister who's 3 years older who's profoundly deaf. And that's not related to Coffin-Lowry. And, we told her, your sister is deaf. Your mom wears glasses. You have Coffin-Lowry. Everybody has something different. And so she has learned about it in small increments as she's gotten older and as it's developmentally appropriate. Does that work for, everybody and every child? It's what worked for us. And I think it was helpful that she did have a sister with a more obvious disability, but who also excelled academically. So it was a hard kind of balancing act, but
Yeah.
Jesse, our daughter's 21, and can you allude to what you meant by her brain is healed? Was there certain therapies that you did
Well,
that helped with that?
my daughter's situation is a bit different than some of the others in that she had a severe brain inflammation that started when she hit puberty. And
Okay.
she was actually diagnosed with encephalitis before we ever even knew she had Coffin-Lowry. So she had a severe inflammation in her brain and that had to be dealt with. And she's still taking medicine 10 years later. I wrote a book about it all, and if you're interested, I can send you a summary of her story. But there's a subgroup, a small group of people in the Coffin-Lowry community, a very small group.
Yeah, you really need to preface
Very,
it. It's
very small group.
extremely
There
small.
are a few other cases of like Julia's, not too many. Very, very few, just like maybe 2 or 3 that have had it as severe as Julia's had. That's all. and a few
We
others,
like-
but
We were
but
hoping.
this has happened, and she was diagnosed with autoimmune encephalitis, and she's been treated for autoimmune encephalitis, and she's still getting treatments for it, immunosuppressant treatments, but it took a while because she was very delusional, had a lot of psychiatric issues, as well as couldn't read or write anymore, couldn't do anything because she'd been very smart. So she's a very unusual case.
Okay.
And there's just a few like her, but not very many. So it's really not something that other people probably will experience at all. So when I talk about the brain inflammation, a lot of people are familiar with her story already, but you might not have heard about it yet. But hers was a very unusual case. And like I said,
I'd be interested in learning more from everyone with daughters with the psychosis side of the, our daughter's 21, and I feel like, once they hit puberty, and even more challenging when there's a lot of change, how the moods are so up and down, and how some of you guys handle that, and maybe some of the medications they take. And I thought we had gotten an email about someone that was doing a study on, what was it?
me. You
That's
probably got an
Stanford.
email from me.
Stanford study.
Oh, no, that's a different.
Well,
that's different.
So, no, Sanford's not doing a study. We're collecting data for a health registry at Sanford so that researchers can come in and utilize that data for a study. Now, Jesse has met with some healthcare professionals about a potential study.
Okay.
And that was in the last newsletter. Somebody here's ready to go to bed.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So hey, a plug for that. Thank you for bringing that up. If you guys haven't registered your health data in Sanford, I would appreciate it if you do. The more people we have, the better chances we'll have of researchers coming in and studying CLS. Because that's the first thing you have to do. You have to have that data. We have 53 people now signed up, which we're making progress, but still have a ways
Thank
to go.
you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Hey, and I'm gonna have to drop. Abby,
Yeah.
if you want to stick around for more questions, that'd be great. Can you wait 1 minute? 1 minute.
I can a few minutes, yeah.
I really appreciate everything you did, volunteering to have this session. I thought it was excellent. I loved hearing your story. Really, again, appreciate it. You got some great comments and questions. So I'm gonna go off screen and help him, and I'll hook back up with you probably tomorrow. But thank you
Sounds
all.
great. Thanks for having me.
I just, my last thing I wanted to say was don't overlook a couple things. One is sense of humor about a lot of this, like they'll reflect how you see things. And if you keep your head about you and find your sense of humor, Carly will do stuff and she'll just, her really favorite thing is to say, I should have acted my age, not my shoe size. And you just have to have that attitude that everything, isn't perfect for any of us. And the other thing in our case has been, all the kids in school, she went through high school in the typical classrooms and everything with support, but she found her people. I mean, if there are disability or adaptive activities in your community, she found her people there more. I mean, the other kids were great and they're super nice, but when they're in their senior year of high school, they're not thinking, oh, I should go get so-and-so and take them out with us when we go to the movies. They may not think of that. But when she found, a group, and it's a bigger group all the time of other people in her, age peers don't matter so much. She's never known a time when things weren't just perfectly hunky-dory for her. She struggles greatly with falls with the sides. That's the biggest bane of our existence. But beyond that, you know, she doesn't see disability or difference in other people because as far as she's concerned, nobody's perfect. So she doesn't know the difference. So a lot of it has to do with, you know, for the younger parents, it's just life, you know, it's just the range of life. It's the luck of the draw. It's the making the most of what you have, and never forget your sense of humor, because you will go crazy if you don't find the humor in some of this. You just you just have to. She's become like our own Yogi Berra, you know, saying things like, dang, if we wouldn't have lost that game, we would have won. And things like they're Carlyisms. If you lose, you snooze. These are, you know, we all live by these platitudes now. So just, you know, it all will work out. I know some are so worried about the future, but I mean, it's okay. It figures itself out.
It really is comforting to hear you say that, right? And offer those words.
It really is. It's
really is.
okay. It's not what you thought was going to happen. It's certainly not what I thought. But it is what it is. I mean, if it was, then it would be. That's another Carlyism. So you just, I don't know. I just try to keep her. I never let her think, oh, poor me. I just keep her going, it sucks. So deal with, you know, you just have to move forward. And she's very resilient at this point, which is pretty great.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? I was just going to share our experience is very similar to yours, except that our daughter, it was more obvious, her challenges. She needed help learning to crawl and to walk and to talk and to actually do anything. We had to teach her humor, and we had to teach her how to raise her voice at the end of a sentence when she was asking a question. And the thing that kept us going, I called her my mystery girl because we never got a diagnosis for such a long time. And I'm a bit annoyed with a geneticist that we were working with, but you know, in our state, that's what was available. And but being such an unknown, and she was so motivated, we just kept, you know, let's see what you can do, and just took everything in nice, slow, incremental progress. And she's very proud of herself. She knows that things are hard for her. She is very aware of her challenges, but it doesn't stop her from trying new things and learning new things. And she's surprised everybody with what she can do. And other people might not think that they're so amazing, but a girl who couldn't talk can now have a conversation, and the girl who couldn't walk can snowboard. And she's learned to read, and she can use a computer, and she can use her cell phone to make appointments and reach out to people about things. And I never expected that, you know, but I got rid of all my expectations, and we just focused on progress.
Yeah.
And things that she enjoyed, and what does it mean to live a good life?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard because our culture focuses so much on achievement and success. And kind of like you, I was the top of my class, and you know, you're like, huh, what is this? And what can we do? But she looks at it kind of like, it's so funny. Once we got the diagnosis, our analogy was, well, you know how your dad has kidney stones and he has to go into the doctor from time to time and get these tests done. You go, well, you got Coffin-Lowry syndrome. That's our comparison. It's everybody's got something. This is yours,
Yeah. When you talk about like, that she surprises you every day and
Oh my
kind of got rid of all your
goodness.
expectations. I remember specifically
Yeah.
leaving, like I said, at 3, she still
Mm-hmm.
had 0 words. And I remember leaving all those, that
Yeah.
speech was her biggest challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember leaving those appointments going like, I would give anything. I would give anything to have my child like talk, to say,
Mm-hmm.
a word, to say, love you, mommy, to say, mommy.
Yeah.
I mean, I would give anything for that. And a therapist was like, don't you worry. Like,
Yeah, we
gonna get
counted.
it. We're gonna get it. She said, there will be a day
Mm-hmm.
when you wished she wouldn't talk. And I said, no, that would never. And
Yeah.
now here I am. She is 12. And I am like, oh my God, will you just shut up
Oh,
and go away?
We
took
have
our
had this
daughter.
same
It
conversation.
happened.
I'll be like, Carly, my head is gonna explode. You gotta stop talking.
Yes.
But I had that same prayer and wish. Oh, if she would only say yes or no.
Yeah,
Now,
right?
be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Right.
We
Yeah, I think about that. I feel like finding that
Mhm.
therapist and being like, it happened. It happened. She's 12. And I'm like, be quiet. Yeah.
But we had a lot of challenges along the way, particularly with schools. And that was unfortunate, but we did find a way to make it work because I really, really she was motivated. I wanted her to keep on working on her reading skills, which, by secondary school, we're still weak. And she wasn't going to get the help at the public school. I think they stopped helping the kids learn to read like in 4th grade. It's like, oh, if you haven't learned to read by 4th grade, that's it?
Yep. They're reading to learn
That's it?
in 4th grade is
I'm
like
like,
it.
you don't
Yeah.
help the children that are behind. And so I really, really wanted to see if she could learn to read, because it's such a important skill. And if she was motivated to keep trying, we would find a way to keep helping her make progress. And so she ended up, we did dual enrollment for upper elementary and middle school. And then she went to a private school actually for kids with dyslexia, even though who knows, it helped her learn to read. So she did learn to read through that type of school. And then in high school, she went to like a small private school, which was mostly children with various disabilities. But she did the extracurricular activities at her public school. She was in the marching band and she did winter percussion. And she was really good at that. It was like shocking. And then she did unified sports because the sports at that age get really competitive and it was just too hard. And yeah, so we're excited for her. She's at the age where she's looking for a part-time job. She tires real easily, so she can't work full-time. It's too demanding. But she's excited and she has a lot to offer. She's a hard worker. And yeah, so it's a lot of, you wish the culture were different, but
So what kind of job is she looking at getting?
she would like to work at a rec center or some kind of athletic club, and she would be the helper. She can do the check-in at the front desk, and she can help the instructors with setup and cleanup, that kind of stuff. And maybe
That's
clean the equipment and, that kind of stuff. She would be thrilled and she would be excellent at that. And she did that while she was in college, which was in a different city. So now she's back in our, hometown, and and looking for something similar.
I asked.
How old is your daughter?
Oh,
Mhm.
Jill, how old is your daughter?
She's 24.
24.
Mhm. Yeah.
So Carly has always wanted to be with babies or little kids. Like that's been her passion since she was little, tiny. And when she was in Michigan, the post-high school program goes until the age 26. It's the only state.
Oh,
Goes
nice,
till
nice.
26. And so they planted her in a whole bunch of different businesses to get a little bit of work experience and sort of figure out what she likes. Well, they took her over to the Oakland University, which is near our house, and deposited her in the early childhood preschool. And she's been there 11 years. And she's unpaid, but she gets up every morning. She goes from 9 to 12 every day. She's become integral to their, I mean, she has certain roles that they so appreciate, and it's become, her falling was always my worry, was that they're going to say this is too risky, you know, these little kids and all that. And they've figured out ways to make it work. And it's just been perfect. It's perfect for her. And 11 years this year is just amazing. So, I mean, we don't really even care if she ever gets paid because it's more hassle than it's worth. But she gets up and does something meaningful every day, and it's important work. And she, if you want to get her mad, put the dolls away with no clothes on in the play area. Makes her literally crazy. Mom, they put the babies away naked again. I had to get them all dressed. So, again, from all this perspective, I mean, we didn't even know what she had until she was 16 years, well, actually 18. So we didn't have a name for this, but it's all about living in the real world, in this world that sometimes makes way for you and sometimes it doesn't. And some days are great and some days aren't, but you guys, they'll find their way. It works out.
and Mo, does Carly live on her own?
Oh, no, she does not, but we're part of a housing group and we're having, it's going to be a neighborhood of neuro-inclusive homes. So 3 out of the 11 homes will be specialized for people with disabilities, and she will own half of her home. There'll be 4 people living there and 2 of them are paying rent to the other 2 who will be owners. Well, their trust will own it. And that's supposed to roll out late next year. And we're scrambling to get her organized for that. And I have no illusions it will be an easy haul. It's not going to be easy. And they'll start out great and then there'll be moments, but nothing in her life's been easy so far. So she's just going to have to suck it up and keep moving.
I'm a lot like Abby. So Piper is 3.5 years old, and she also has retinoblastoma. And that's actually how we found the Coffin-Lowry, is that we were doing genetic testing, and they found the RB1 gene, and she went through chemo and all of that. And she has an eye exam under anesthesia on the 6th of December. And if that one's clean, then she gets survivor status. So that's excellent. But I'm throwing her a baby Rafe, which is so exciting because she loves music and lights and dancing and all that. But my pediatrician, I had a different kind of experience than Abby did, in that we had doctors that were pushing constantly get her tested, what can get her involved in this, get her in this, and so we've been very fortunate that way. But she had hypotonia, and actually so this is kind of crazy too. I'll just tell you briefly. She was in the hospital for RSV and in the ICU. That's when they told us that she has hypotonia. They wanted to do a brain MRI, and that's how they found randomly the retinoblastoma, which then was like, let's do testing there. Why don't we do more testing? I put in the chat that we didn't get covered for the full genome, and a foundation covered it. And so we found that out earlier this year. And so it's been a tough, I mean, lightning struck twice for us, unfortunately. And it went from, okay, cancer is curable, and then we'll have, our life ahead of us, to, okay, now we have, and we always knew, you kind of always, I mean, it's not Jesse, but sometimes you kind of always know, you have a little bit of a feeling. And then it became, okay, now this is going to be a lifelong, and I don't want to call it a sentence, but a lifelong
pilgrimage.
And yeah. So it went from, okay, short-term curable to lifelong, and that was a tough pill to swallow. And so Abby's been fantastic. She's gotten some late night messages of me with tears. I'm still not quite over the initial shock. And I had the same exact, and see, it's happening again. I had the same exact feeling when I found out, and I Googled, and Piper is quarter Malaysian. And so my husband's half Malaysian. So when she had some of those features, I thought to myself, okay, well, the Malaysian's coming out differently, or maybe that's just the Asian look. And she has an older sister here. If she is going to come say hi, this is Pierce. This is her 6.5-year-old sister. And so she looks very different from Pierce, but I thought, okay, Asian genes come out differently. But then when I Googled after hearing the Coffin-Lowry, there's actually, it's interesting, there's an Asian baby that pops up, and it's the one, I'm sure you've seen it, it's the one where they like blacked out the eyes for some reason, but it's on Google, and I was like, it's her twin, and this is very weird. And that's my child's face. Like, this is very crazy, and so, and same thing when I got in the group, I was like, how did I not see this? And how did we not know? And just, it's just so rare. And so, yeah, but I messaged her, and I was like, what kind of job? Cause I'm, math is escaping me, 7 years difference in age from Caroline. And so I was like, okay, how was she like at this age? How was she at that age? What do you think for her future? What kind of job do you think she'll have in her future? Do you think she'll find love? And it's just all those things that, as a type A, planner does. And of course, I also have the laid back husband that's like, it's fine, we'll just figure it out as it comes. And I'm like, no. So I feel you. I'm with you.
And I feel like of the women who have messaged me, like all of those like questions, and I mean, maybe we do that maybe as women, but like, it's like, you're just like scrambling for like a gist of like what will be to come, because you don't know. And yeah, what about potty training and driving and having a job? And
training.
Will you find someone ever and live on your own? And yeah, like, right. It's funny. Those are the same questions that everybody like asks. And I don't know, I've maybe talked to like 5 other women with young daughters. Yeah.
I remember the day that it hit me. Well, see, we didn't know anything was different with Carly. We literally were so stupid when I look back, but her siblings were so far on the other side of the coin that we just thought, okay, we got an average kid here. Like, we just didn't know for the longest time. I have a feeling a lot of people in our lives knew, and nobody said anything to us. And it was good because she was treated like anybody else. We expected the same things of her, and it was a tougher road, that's for sure. But we never treated her like she was different. But I do remember the day that we had, we still didn't have it. Didn't have a diagnosis because this wasn't in the genetics at the time. And I just remember the day realizing she would never drive. And that was the hardest thing for me of anything, because I wanted to raise kids. I love them to death, but I wanted them to fly away when the time came. And I realized, oh my God, this is not going to be, this is different. This is not the plan. And that was a hard day for me. But then you have to roll with it. And I mean, I wouldn't change anything. And you guys, you're not making any mistakes. You're just learning. And so, you know what I mean? Like, don't look back and go, I shoulda. It's you just have to learn like every other parent on earth ever. You just make the most of what you have, the best decision you can make at the time. And it all works. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but it does work out. Their life is what it is. And you will have to make a lot of adaptations that you didn't plan to make, but you'll make them. And that you don't have to worry about 20 years from now. Just look forward to this week, this year. And somebody said to me once, never say never. So what they were saying is, don't say, I'm never going to have her doing this, because every year is a different year. And I used to say, I'm not having her, sometimes they would put, in high school, some of the kids with special needs in the cafeteria cleaning up and stuff. And I was always like, that is never going to happen. And a really wise teacher said to me, never say never. Just say that's not what I want for her right now, but don't eliminate anything. And that's a good one to remember. Don't eliminate anything, but you just consider it as it comes and see if it's the right thing to do at that time. I wanted her to have all friends who were neurotypical, but that isn't where she's happy, And I mean, so you just keep an open mind.
Hey, I want to piggyback on that just really quick. I think if I look back where some of you mothers are today, I think some of the advice, or the advice I'd give myself, if I could do that, is, enjoy your kid. They're still your kid. They're your kid like your typical kids are. And celebrate them. Of course, we celebrate milestones big because milestones are big. We put these kids under a microscope, and you put enough things under a microscope, you're going to find something. And it's easy to identify the areas that aren't where we'd want them to be, right? You identify this bad thing, but there's so much good about our kids. And we need to emphasize that and bring out the good and celebrate that. That's what I would go back and tell a younger me.
My background professionally, I was a pediatric physical therapist and worked in early intervention. So I was the one that was telling parents, take your kid to genetics, But a thing that I often would tell parents who were really struggling in the beginning, with the diagnosis and adjusting and because I'd been through it with both of my kids. One was deaf, the other has Coffin-Lowry. He said, every child comes, I think, with a set amount of stress for the parent. And sometimes we get it early on when we're dealing with learning about a diagnosis or, struggling with how can I get help for my child. And sometimes that child doesn't bring that stress to your life till they're dealing with peer pressure in high school and college and, you know, working out those things. You know, quite frankly, I was glad my kids didn't have some of those stresses that, you know, on me at that point in their life. Because I think that would be a lot harder to deal with in some ways. Um, you know, we always challenged Amy to, you know, do as much as she could, and finding activities and things for her. When she was younger, you know, band music just didn't work out for her. Sports was just, you know, she tried, she was just too frustrated. You know, what could she do? What could she belong? And we ended up getting her goats, pygmy goats, and getting into 4-H. And so the things like feeding the goat every day, figuring out how to take the lid off the trash can to get the food out, to carry the water out to the pen, to pour in the pan for the goat for the day. You know, they were all therapeutic, but for her, it was, you know, taking care of her goat. She had to learn to cross midline by brushing the goat to get it ready for the fair to you know, so you can find really creative ways to challenge your child and have them belong, you know, and she joined 4-H and she showed her goat and she couldn't figure out the right way to walk around the ring, but she tried and it was all good. And she worked for a number of years. She worked at a movie theater. She worked in a senior care facility. Um, she's worked in a restaurant. Um, she does not work now. She has a migraine headache every single day. Um, and I'm retired. And, you know, for me to be tied down to a minimum wage job that the schedule shows, you know, comes out the week before, when you can't plan your life, I have decided that it's okay for Amy to be retired with me. You know, and really with her headaches, she can't focus and work at this point. You know, I wish she could still work, but she did work for a number of years. So you just take it a day at a time and keep going, and it changes at different points in life.
All right, well, I will say very good discussion. Again, Abby, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Success, yay.
Thanks for having me, and I enjoyed the commentary after here too.
Yeah, it was like what is that radio show, kind of after the show commentary. And Tobias, thank you for joining us. I think it's like the middle of the night where you are.
We're getting into the morning now.
Into the
right.
We have like 4 o'clock in the morning at the moment here.
All right.
But it was quite interesting, and it was, you really appreciate your group and everything you do, because in Germany we have like a handful of parents. We already met also with a meeting, but most people we know in Germany with daughters, they are very, very less affected by CLS. Our little one is, like, let me say, average, I think. The others have more like mild cases. Like they're speaking normal, they're going to normal schools and things like that. So your group is very important for us. And Abby, my wife already knows your whole story, because in one night when she was awake, we read all of your content already. So she put me here because I want to be multinational surrounding for some time. And my English is not the best, but I'm able to understand most of the things. And it was great. And I think that's very similar. And one thing when we were talking about those pictures, Amy meant, yeah, as soon as you enter the CLS group, you see those pictures and you're like, okay, they look the same. Also, when we were at the genetic, you, the doctor told us when he walks along the street, he does not see normal people. He sees at least half of 50%, which means there could be something. And we had a good one. He had a differential diagnostics Williams-Borden in mind, but was like, no, that's not it. We do we do a real big test of everything now. So we got a quite early diagnostics after also the first year therapist, which was there for our little daughter, was like, you should go to the genetics maybe. So Chris, I found you were this who sent also with the genetics, and this was the same for us. So I really appreciated it, and it was worth staying up tonight. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks again. And thanks, Teresa, for holding this.
Thank you very much. Also,
All right, bye all, good night.
Night.
bye.
Abby, can you stop the recording?
Oh, yeah, I have to do it. Yeah. Oh, wait. Okay, I got it. Bye.